Hi, everyone. Welcome back to all our YouTube viewers and our audio listeners on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or wherever you're tuning in from. So good to have you here. And if this is the first time you're joining us, then welcome. You are listening to episode 4 of AMA Affiliate Marketing Answered, the show where one expert answers your most specific questions, most frustrating questions about affiliate marketing without any fluff and definitely no filler. I know I've said this before, but I just can't help it. We have such a great lineup of experts this series that I'm excited to have today's guest, who is Dan Albert. He's the co-founder and CEO of 456 Growth. And what makes him a fun guest on this show is that he sits on every side of the table at once. So 456 Growth, they run performance campaign for brands. They manage a roster of hundreds of creators, and they even invest in consumer brands. So when Dan talks about what works in affiliate and very specifically TikTok Shop and Amazon affiliate marketing, he's seeing it from the brand side, the creator side, and the investor side. So at the same time. Also, fun fact, we did a webinar with Dan a couple of months back, which is one of my all-time favorites. So you should definitely go and check that out on our YouTube. And I'm so glad to have you back with us, Dan. Thank you so much for your time and welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's always a great time when we get to chat the industry and the creator economy. So excited to be here.
Awesome. A quick rundown for anyone new. We collect questions from our audience ahead of time, and we work through as many of them as possible within the time frame that we have. The form stays open. The link is in the description. So if you're stuck on something on your affiliate program, drop in your question in the form below and we'll put it in front of a future guest. And if you want to connect with Dan after this, his LinkedIn as well as the 456 Growth website are all in the description as well. And while you're at it, go subscribe to his newsletter, Diamonds in the Rough. Very insightful and like this content that you won't get on the internet anywhere else. So do that while you are listening in. Before we get to the audience questions, we have a little tradition on this show. And my first question for you is, what is your hot take about affiliate marketing? Something that every brand gets wrong or something that you'd get pushed back on. Set the tone for this episode.
I think most brands think that affiliate marketing is just about speculative performance and content that drives immediate revenue in the environment of focus. But actually, affiliate marketing, excuse me, is a compounded halo effect across a multitude of not only modern consumer landscapes and marketplaces, but also historical ones. We just released data in this week's newsletter uh, about Amazon Prime Day, which was the largest Amazon Prime Day GMV wise in history, but specifically about Amazon Prime Day's affiliate activity and how it also increased some very drastic foot traffic numbers in large big box retail stores in the United States like Kohl's and Best Buy and Target. Some of those numbers pacing upwards of a 20% foot traffic jump from affiliate content posted intended to drive Amazon GMV, but also um, simultaneously, right, allowing Amazon's rivals to gain gain footing as opposed to losing ground during Amazon Prime Day activations. And so it's very interesting. And I'm sure as we dive into this, we're going to talk a lot about expectations of performance, timeline of performance, and when to abandon and jump ship versus continue the par for the course. And looking at that compounded as well as halo impact is a very important variable when evaluating an affiliate program and campaign from A to Z. So,
Yeah, absolutely love that. We have this friend who wrote in, and I think this question comes with a lot of like frustration attached, which might be felt by a lot of brands out there who are new to affiliate marketing, who don't, who haven't like spent enough time with this channel. So for them, this brand who wrote in said, our program has only been running for about 2.5 months, but the ROAS is terrible so far. So is there a minimum time frame we should be committing to before we pull the plug? And what should we be looking at before we make that call? So what are the signs?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. Look, like 2.5 months is a really early runway for ROAS and for deciding like what is your like marquee deciding metric of success. Um, I think that like a real affiliate program, agnostic of where it happens, it really takes between 3 to 6 months of real iteration before that program actually shows what we call as true signals. And what I'd watch instead right now are a few variables. Are creators actually posting once they're approved or gained entry into this affiliate program? Are those individual videos really getting real engagement? Even if the like aggregate number or numbers look like ugly from the facade? And are there a handful of creators that are actually showing what we call this like spark, right? This success KPI. And don't pull the plug on time alone. Pull the plug if you've actually and generally iterated on your offer, on your briefs, on your creator mix, and you're still seeing like a lack of movement or momentum after 4 to 6 months. Um, the last thing I'll add there is that like a lot of brands like quit right at the point of where that program is about to turn a corner because the first few months are what we call that learning curve. And you're learning
Yeah.
for the first time initially internally, and it takes even longer. So here's a shameless plug, right, for an agency like 456 and many others out there is that um, one of the reasons many brands bring in an outside agency is that it allows you to get that help early on, right? You're not, you know, bringing on an agency to run that program forever, but you're trying to compress that learning curve because someone who's already run 20 or 40 or 50 or 100 of these programs know that in a month, right? In month one, what usually takes a brand again between 3 and 6 months to figure out on their own. So you before writing off a program, right? You should ask yourself: is the ROAS bad because the channel doesn't work, or is it because we're still figuring things out? And an experienced partner could have told us from day one, dollar one, and that's kind of where I would say in response to abandoning your program a little bit too early in the trajectory.
That makes sense. I think what you mentioned in the beginning about expectations, like setting wrong expectations with the channel itself, is a fundamental issue here as well. That you think, well, put in X amount of dollars in this, and then I just like straight away get 2X. That is just not how the channel works. It's a word of mouth channel. It's like you can't just look at one metric and there's like movement in that, and you say, okay, it's working or it's not working. You have to look at it from like a zoomed out lens, like the overall picture, as you mentioned, like halo effects. Again, something that a lot of brands miss when they're tracking success for their affiliate programs. I wanted to actually jump a little bit ahead. I had this question for a little later, but because you mentioned the role of an agency, one of the questions that we had was around team dynamics. So this brand wrote in and said, uh, do we need to hire a dedicated affiliate manager before we scale the program, because we're a lean team and we're not sure if we're big enough to justify the addition of like a sole owner for this channel? So at what point does affiliate need its own person?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I have two answers to that question. So answer number one here is again watching for like one signal. Are you the bottleneck, right, as the sole operator of the affiliate program, right? Are things like, are you slow to approve samples? Are you slow to provide creator content feedback? Are you slow to respond to DMs or emails or customer service inquiries? Things that directly kill what we call activation from the creator side and retention of creator partners. Because ultimately, creators who don't hear back in likely probably roughly 48 hours, they just move on. And if you've already maxed out at 30 or 40 genuine creator relationships, that's your ceiling. and you've hit the point where a lean team can't run it well anymore. The other trigger, right, is what we call intent. If you want to scale past the size and keep the same quality of management, that's when a dedicated hire pays for itself. Um, the other response to this question regards is more tailored to attention, right? So, do you need dedicated attention and do you need a dedicated headcount to be successful with your affiliate program? I think almost certainly you need the former sooner than you think because response speed, as I mentioned, is what makes or breaks creator relationships. But full time headcount is a big commitment from a brand's perspective. You have salary, you have training and ramp time. You're betting on a program before you even have a guarantee of an ROI and before you've even hired the person to run the program. So, what a lean team does instead if you were to start with an agency or a fractional affiliate manager, is to get that dedicated attention immediately to prove out the program ceiling and figure out exactly, right, what the role needs to look like. And once you've got a predictable volume and you know the playbook works, that's the right moment to either bring that program back in house or begin hiring full time employees to run that affiliate program or programs because you have a proven system instead of you guessing at one. And I always tell this to brands when they evaluate if they're considering an agency that the agency isn't an end state, right? It's how you buy yourself the time and the data to make a smarter in-house hire later on. Most people think, oh, I don't want to hire an agency because I want to own it and I want to be able to control it. But the smart brands are actually leveraging agencies early on and then building off of that feedback loop about how to own it in the long term. And smart agencies understand that and they look at their business development and their customer base with the intention that the retention of those clients has a cycle. They don't fight against it and continue to push for exclusivity and ownership over a program that ultimately needs to be owned by a brand in house. So it was a really good question.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think with agency, there comes the expertise. There's so much exposure. They've worked with different brands across all categories, maybe even within your same category. So, they already come with, as you mentioned, a playbook. And it just makes, if you're just starting out and you don't know how to, it just makes sense to look towards an expert rather than like a full-time person joining you, because then uh, there's cost involved in that. There is, hand holding involved in that. So instead of that, you have like a team of experts just helping you figure it out while you start. So that makes a lot of sense. And just coming to volume, which you mentioned just now, um, this was one of the questions we had. But uh, do you like what is the volume of affiliate partners that a brand should be looking at? Because one of the people who wrote in said they don't have the bandwidth to manage, let's say, more than 40, 50 affiliates at a time. But everyone is telling them to go wide and recruit as many as possible. It just feels impossible to them. But is a smaller, tighter program a more viable strategy, or is it like capping your potential? Is there like a benchmark that they should be looking at, considering your experience
Yeah,
with brands of all sizes? Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I hope it's okay. I'm going to try and give you answers from the brand perspective and then also from an agency perspective, which I think are similar but also may differ, right? So we're talking about capacity of affiliate creator partnerships, and is it better to have like a smaller, tight knit group or to go wider and to scale? Um, I would say go wide advice usually comes from a paid media mindset, right? Um, affiliate, especially on TikTok, rewards consistency and iteration. And it's not, even though some people believe it's spray and pray, it's not really spray and pray mentality. So a tight roster of 30 or 40 creator or affiliate partners that you can actually brief and give feedback to will
Right.
will outperform 300 you can't support. So you're not capping your potential, right? Ultimately, what you're doing is you're protecting your quality. And if you want some of the go wide benefit, then you should layer a low touch solution, a self service tier, right? Underneath your core 30, 40 upper tier pyramid so that volume can happen without eating away at your minimal singular manager or a few managers um, attention. Um, now, an agency perspective um, is that you know you're right that going wide with your current bandwidth would spread you thin, but the instinct, right, to stay a tighter group is correct. So when it gets tricky and when you want to kind of more volume without necessarily diluting the quality, that's usually the point that brands bring in an agency. And it's not to replace again that those tight knit relationships you've built, but it's to add capacity, right? Extra hands to vet, onboard, manage second tier of creators. So your team's attention, once again, which is important, the attention thing, stays on your top tier 30 or 40 creators while the program still grows underneath it. You're building a farming system where ultimately relationships are the drivers of performance, but you still need to be able to expand in volume to see a smaller percentage convert up into a higher tier affiliate partner and to test as opposed to relying on the same affiliate partners time and time again.
That makes a lot of sense. So go wide with your testing and then narrow down to your, let's say, 40 best performers, and like keep them posting. Because again, the effect is compounding as well, right? Like you probably won't see sales in the first couple of weeks of them posting this, like the trust that they have to build with the audience is just again at the core of it. The channel just works that way, that they have to build trust with their audience enough to start seeing that converting into sales for the brand. So this actually is a very good segue for a question that we had about recruiting. So this brand has been running their affiliate program for a while now, less than a year, but definitely more than 2.5 months, like we had the other brand pitch in. But they keep recruiting people with what they feel is like a decent following. And they think it's definitely the right niche, but they're not seeing sales from them. So, how do they know if they're either like picking the wrong people or if the problem is something else entirely? Because if you look at it from a funnel perspective, there is recruiting, there is onboarding, there is the constant engagement
Yeah.
and motivation, your incentive structure. So when you look at it from a funnel perspective, how do you find leaks, and how do you know if it's a recruitment problem versus an onboarding problem versus an incentive problem?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first off, 8 months in is a good period of time to evaluate the signals and understand what's working and not working. 8 to 12 months in. And I'm going to make a statement I think is really, really important. The niche fit and the follower count, they might predict reach, but they're not but not the conversion ability of these creators. Um, I think the TikTok shop landscape has created the emergence of companies or agencies that are solely focused on how to teach creators to build higher quality creative and content. And conversion and reach, those are two different skill sets, right? So you need to check if the content is even getting the views and engagement. If they are, but there are no sales, then that's an offer problem, such as the price point, or it's unclear value prop, or perhaps there's checkout friction, depending on where the affiliate program's happening, whether it's Amazon, TikTok Shop, or direct to consumer. If the content itself is failing fast and falling flat, then the problem is the creator selection, but not in the way that you think, right? It's that those creators don't know how to sell on camera. Not that they're the wrong niche, but that they're not true sellers and the content isn't resonating. So if you look at your top 10% of your creator and affiliate partners and you see what they're doing differently before touching the roster, right? And I also think also to expand on this, that this is actually a really common blind spot for a lot of brands. It's really hard to diagnose from the inside the brand because you don't have a lot of comparison points once again if you're starting a program from scratch longer. And so this also is where an outside set of eyes comes in play, like an agency or an affiliate agency, because They've seen hundreds of creators across categories and brand SKUs and product SKUs, and they can tell within a few videos whether it's a selling skill or whether it's a briefing problem or whether it's an offer problem because they've seen the pattern before and they know the signals to look for. Long term, right? You can, like, once again, still build those instincts in house, but what you're doing in this time tax is you're borrowing the expertise of an agency in pattern recognition, and that's going to save you months of trial and error with the wrong fix. Um, and so we're just talking about growth hacking or success, skill sets to just allow you to focus on how to build the program faster and more efficiently than make more mistakes early on. So,
Is there a way that a brand can also look for similar signals? So, one of the questions we had was actually around TikTok shop creators. This brand said that they are sending free samples to TikTok shop creators, but it feels like a black hole to them because half of them either never post or the other ones, get a handful of like views and conversions. So, do they keep spraying the same samples and just like accept that it's just cost of doing business, or is there a way to qualify creators before product goes out?
yeah, I mean, the TikTok shop landscape has changed drastically over the past 3 to 5 months. I mean, my hot take is that it's not an affiliate channel anymore. Now it's like a pay to play channel with an affiliate and residual payment component. More and more offshore brands and domestic brands are allocating a fraction of their influencer budgets, which, even if that's $20,000 a month compared to 200,000 influencer budget a month, they're spending barely anything, but they're already achieving way more impressions. And ideally, hopefully, they're driving the GMV. But it goes back to the spray and pray model, right? That that anybody could basically blast out thousands of TikTok shop, I call them social sellers, but at the end of the day, you should be evaluating other core metrics, which isn't necessarily top line 30-day GMV or only based on, like, product category alignment or engagement rate or even creative, but it should be focusing on uh, um, the criteria, what we call basically like if I'm issuing out a sample request, um, how much content am I getting from that free sample, right? For every product seeded, am I getting 3 videos, right? And then looking at a layer deeper and saying, are those 3 videos quality enough to stand on its own legs organically or in a paid capacity? Or are they diverse enough? Or are they, as a content quality, dilutive and just too emulative of the video before it, right? And it's all about diversity, right? In the quantity masses, but also then in figuring out like, um, how can I attract, right, those creators that are once again are producing much more quality creative and are able to like serve not only your paid social team but also your organic KPIs like GMV and impressions simultaneously. Um, uh, the way of sourcing creators historically is not the way that creators are sourced in today's modern landscape. I think we've talked about a lot in the past, and brands are realizing it. And specifically in the short form discovery algorithm, across the board, right? Built-in followers are not the primary driver of impressions or conversion success, which in my mind has equaled and leveled the playing field. But it's also set everybody back into, we'll call it the trash heap to search for treasure, right? That the consistent performers of the past are no longer the consistent drivers of the future, which is exciting but also scary at the same time.
Yep. Yeah, thank you so much for that, Dan. I think that is our time for today, and all our questions. Thank you so much, and like for answering all of these questions with such specificity. I know the brands who submitted these are going to get a lot out of it. So, for everyone watching or listening, if you have got a question you're wrestling with in your affiliate program, the form is in the description. Submit it, and we'll get it answered by one of our upcoming guests. And go connect with Dan on LinkedIn, check out 456 Growth. We'll also leave a link to his Calendly in the description. So if you just want to go ahead and book some time with him to talk about your affiliate program, then feel free to do that. Subscribe to his newsletter. And yeah, if you found this useful, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, follow us wherever you're listening, and we will see you in the next one. Thank you so much for your time, Dan.
Thank you. Thank you so much.